Reincarnated with an analysis system. Chapter 1 to 10. The school bell rang, signaling the start of the classes. Sato sat down at the left end of the class looking outside the window. He paid no attention to what the teacher was saying and didn't even know when the teacher left. He's a high school student with black hair and black pearly eyes. He had always been the type to keep to himself. The only friend he had throughout high school was a girl named Komiko Takizawa. She was pretty popular with the students, which made it difficult for Sato to hang with her. Sato. A feminine voice called out to him. He turned to check and saw Komiko heading toward his location. What does she want? He thought to himself. Sato, guess what? Komiko uttered excitedly. She is a fair-looking lady with brown hair in a white and blue uniform. She pulled out a chair and moved closer to Sato before sitting down. I'm not good at guessing, he replied, looking at her with a plain expression. Sato had his hand resting underneath his jaw as he stared at Komiko. Come on, you could at least try. Komiko pouted. Sato sighed. Let's see, he hummed, thinking of the response he should give. While in thought, he stylishly used his eyes to scan the classroom and noticed that the whole class was giving him death stares. You got into the occult research club, Sato guessed. He ignored the stares and changed his focus back to Komiko. She gave an unimpressed look as she uttered, You suck at guessing. Fine, I'll tell you. She smiled. Komiko placed her hands on her waist. You are now looking at the new vice president of the newspaper club, she said with a smug look. Wow, hooray, Sato voiced out sarcastically. You can at least pretend to be happy, you jerk, she yelled before someone suddenly called her. Komiko, quickly come here. A girl called out. She was sitting in the midst of some boys who had their eyes fixed on Sato. All right, coming, Komiko replied. She stomped Sato's feet before blowing a raspberry, meanie. She ran off. Sato groaned, holding his foot as he wiggled on his chair. Damn you, he shouted. It was finally the end of school time and Sato couldn't be any happier even if he tried. He walked over to his locker and noticed his shoes weren't there. Did I not bring it in? Sato thought out loud. He dropped his bag on the floor and began to search his locker. While searching his locker for them, he noticed a letter at the back of his books. He opened it up and read the message that was inside before giving a sigh. ... I'm guessing you left the letter in my locker, Sato uttered, raising the letter to the sky. He was standing opposite the student. They were both at the back of the school building. Looking around, Sato could tell that someone was behind the car. I'm glad you came. I was starting to think you were going to bail on me, the boy said, grinning with his hands pocketed. I see. Well, the letter said, meet me at the back of the school and come alone. I want to discuss something with you, your pal. Monob, Sato read out before sending a poker look at the boy. I mean, I hardly know you and I get wanting to discuss, but why tell me to come alone if you were just going to bring some friends? Sato raised a question, using his right eye to look at the packed cars. I knew people were there. What the hell is he playing at? Sato thought to himself. Monob sighed. Come out, boys. Looks like he figured it out. About 6 male students came out and each one was holding a weapon. Sato showed no sign of fear as he just stood there watching them. Don't take it personally, Sato darling, but this has to be done. You need to learn your place, Monob yelled. They all dashed towards Sato, who immediately kicked the sand on the ground straight into the eyes of the students. He took to his heels and ran away from the scene at full speed while jumping over fences and cars along the way. He made it to the road that led to his dorm and began heading straight there before stopping on his way to get a breather. This is the 3rd time this week. It's getting really exhausting, Sato murmured, panting while resting his back on the fence. Once he had gotten his composure, he started walking to his dorm. The heat of the sun was starting to weigh on him and his clothes were drenched in his sweat. His dorm wasn't too far from his school, but even still he hated going outside, the sun being his #1 reason. On the way to his dorm, Sato met a suspicious-looking lady standing in front of the dormitory. She wore an alluring white sundress and had a brown hat on her head. She stood in front of the hotel as the wind blew past her hair and dress. From the look of it, Sato could tell that she wasn't from around there. Her beauty in itself was something Sato couldn't ignore. Hello, are you looking for someone? Sato asked, holding his bag tightly while he looked at her. She didn't utter anything. Instead, she slowly raised her head, which revealed her face that the hat was covering. Rho Alpha D Alpha _ nu, Om. Sato's eyes went into shock as soon as he saw her face. She was very pretty that even Sato couldn't stop looking at her. He averted his eyes before thinking to himself, no, don't be fooled, she's still a girl. He then sighed and sent a straight face back at the girl. Before he knew it, the girl who was just staring at him began to tear up suddenly with her hat blowing away from her head to reveal her beautiful silky black hair. Wow, don't cry. Sato tried to calm her down. Did I do something wrong? People will definitely get the wrong idea here, Sato thought to himself while looking around to make sure nobody was watching. He reached inside his bag and brought out a red handkerchief before handing it to her. Here, use it to wipe your tears, Sato muttered. Many thanks, young master, the woman uttered, taking the handkerchief from him and cleaning her eyes. Many thanks. Who says that? Sato thought to himself, I should leave. He turned his back and walked away. He entered his apartment and closed the door behind him, heading straight to the fridge to get some cold water. Today, what am I saying? I'll never see a day that's not weird, it's like I'm cursed or something. Sato uttered. The school offered every student their own apartment, meaning Sato lived in a way that kind of fitted his lifestyle. He headed over to the living room and sat down on the chair to watch some television. He didn't even bother to change out of his uniform. He kept changing the channel to see if there were any good channels to watch, but none piqued his interest, so he ended up tossing the remote to the side. I'm so bored. Sato groaned, standing on his feet. He walked over to the balcony to get some fresh air. That was when he spotted the woman. Looking down, he could see the woman was still standing there. The hell? She might be really lost, Sato exclaimed. The woman suddenly looked up and their eyes met. With the glow of the woman's eyes, the whole apartment blew up almost instantly. Sato didn't even have enough time to react. The rest of the dormitory was fine, but only Sato's room was completely burnt with nothing to pick from it. ... Notice contract with the artificial core is in process. 0.1%. 15%. Opening his eyes, Sato found himself floating in a never-ending void of darkness. Where am I? Sato questioned. 100% synchronization complete. First-class intellectual core has now made a contact with its host. Unique skill analysis obtained. Unique skill wisher obtained. Sato could hear a female monotonous voice speaking in his head. He couldn't quite understand what was going on, but he knew something was off. What the hell is going on? Rho alpha D alpha N nu E, CM. Skill acquired knowledge. Initial skill conceal obtained. A bright light suddenly shone on Sato's eyes, and before he could tell what was going on, he found himself in the middle of a foggy forest. He was laying on the floor when he slowly stood to his feet with his hand on his head from the intense dizziness he was feeling. What the hell happened? He groaned. I was in the apartment when. His eyes widened when he managed to remember the explosion. He immediately began looking around to have a look at where he was. The forest was filled with fog, which made it hard for him to tell some things. I see, so I did die. I'd be stupid if I thought I could survive something like that. Sato thought out loud. He sighed, and then the image of his apartment blowing up appeared in his mind again. He fell to his knees with his face riddled with shock as he looked at the ground. I totally died. So this must be some kind of afterlife. He thought to himself. A loud shriek suddenly echoed from the left side of the forest, and all the crows in the trees began to fly again. Sato turned back to check what the sound was about, only to see a dark figure emerge from the mist. Its green bright eyes were the only thing Sato could see clearly, but he wasn't hoping to stick around and find out. Hey, N. I hope you enjoyed your read. If so, do comment your thoughts and I promise to improve. Thank you for reading. Sato moved back after spotting the being. His heart rate began speeding up as fear took over. He wasn't sure of what the monster was, but he was sure of the emotions he was feeling at the moment. The air felt toxic, and it was like death itself was the one coming towards him. Taking a few steps back, he looked to his back to see if there would be a road he could escape to. The hell is that? No, wait, I might be exaggerating here. Sure would be easier if I could tell what it was. Sato thought to himself as he took his steps backward. Less than notice, the skill perception has been obtained. Greater than. Less than caution, I detect a level A monster making its way towards us. I'd advise avoiding combat with it as you haven't acquired enough information to take on such an enemy. Greater than. A female monotonous voice suddenly voiced in Sato's head. He kept moving back while still keeping his eyes on the blurry figure in front of him. What was that? Sato paused for a bit, looking around the area, wondering where the voice came from. Was that my imagination? He thought to himself. He changed his focus back to the figure and saw that it hadn't moved from its position. The only thing Sato could make out was the green glowing eyes. Sato sighed in relief before giving an awkward smirk. I must be losing it. This place is giving me the SHSKKRRRRR. The monster suddenly whooshed out of the fog, sending a powerful strike at Sato with its scythe. Sato, shocked, leaned to his back as he watched the scythe speed past his head and cut a piece of his hair. He wasn't sure how he was able to dodge such an attack, but that was the least of his worries at the moment. Shit, it's a freaking monster. Sato yelled. He immediately ran away from the Grim Reaper, panting as he kept running in between the trees. What the hell was that? Sato panicked, taking a sharp turn to the left. Less than notice, treat is a rank A monster known as a Grim Reaper. They are known to guide souls to the afterlife, and there's a possibility that's the reason for its attack. Greater than. It thinks I'm dead. I'm not dead. Why is it coming after me? Sato jumped down from a small cliff only to find himself at a dead end that was covered in rocks. Of course, it's a dead end. Sato turned and was about to take another route when the Grim Reaper appeared in front of him. Hey, you've got the wrong guy. I'm not dead, Sato yelled, looking at the way the Grim Reaper's eyes were glowing. Rho alpha D alpha N nu L. The Grim Reaper had a dark hooded cloak on and was holding a dark scythe that was oozing with dark energy. The Grim Reaper suddenly whooshed towards Sato again. Damn it, quit coming after me. Sato was able to dodge the attack again. He took to his feet and began running, looking back to see the Grim Reaper still chasing him. It really wants to kill me that badly. Damn, Sato muttered. Less than taking on such a foe shouldn't be a problem. Your skill conceal is a perfect counter for a being like this. Shall I activate it? Greater than. Skill. Is this one of those RPG kinda skills? Sato asked. He felt his body getting sucked in from behind. Looking back, he saw the Grim Reaper raising his scythe to the sky. A dark mist-like vacuum began sucking everything inside its dark hole, Sato included. Sato screamed, holding onto a tree branch, but that wasn't enough. His hands slipped and he went flying toward the Grim Reaper. Upon getting close, the Grim Reaper held Sato's neck and pushed him to the ground. It began roaring, sucking all of Sato's life force from his body. Sato struggled to get free as his face began to decay from the Grim Reaper's touch. He was slowly starting to lose his hair and his eyes were losing their color. He could feel his life nearing an end. Using the last of his strength, he voiced out while holding the bony hand of the Grim Reaper, "Activate it." He stuttered. Less than command confirmed, activating the skill, conceal greater than. Sato's right hand began glowing, and a red-like streak showed up on his hands and began networking toward the Grim Reaper's body. The Grim Reaper immediately let go of Sato and tried to get free, but it couldn't get away. The streaks were like threads, they only got longer, and no matter how many times the Grim Reaper tried to use its scythe to cut it down, it didn't budge. Instead, it networked to the scythe too. The streaks glowed brightly as it began sucking more of the Grim Reaper's mana, a slow process, but the Grim Reaper began to lose its strength. Rho alpha D alpha backquote N nu, ohm. Sato was still on the ground with his dried skin, but that didn't stop the threads from speeding out of his fingers. He was fading but could still hear the painful shriek of the Grim Reaper was letting out in the immense push of wind that followed. After a few seconds, the Grim Reaper turned into dust. It no longer had any magic energy for it to sustain itself and was then destroyed. The streak returned to Sato's body, sending a huge amount of magic energy back at him. His body began healing up and was now back to its normal tone. Wow, I'm alive. Sato yelled. Before he could stand to his feet, he received a whack to the head and went unconscious on the floor. ... He could hear the sound of females murmuring amongst themselves while he was still in his unconscious state. He opened his eyes to see 3 women dressed in a fantasy-like way standing in front of him. Sato tried to stand up but then noticed that his hands had been chained to the wall and he was locked in a cell. Look who's finally awake, one of the women said. She had long blonde hair and carried with her a sword. You think we should call Lady Heim now? The other female spoke. She was wearing an outfit that covered her face a little, giving her a bit of a mysterious vibe. I don't think Lady Heim would react very well to us, knowing we caught a demon in our domain. The blonde-haired girl uttered, glaring at Sato, who was still confused. Demon? Are they talking about me? Sato thought to himself, no, demon. He suddenly remembered how he absorbed magic energy from the Grim Reaper that attacked me. Fantasy dressing, Grim Reaper, skill, all these look like something that would happen in an anime. Isekai. Sato yelled. The woman looked at him with a fast gaze, wondering why he yelled like that. Sato ignored their looks and kept on thinking, I died, so which means I reincarnated. Less than noticed death in other world left to reincarnation into this world greater than. Sato gave an awkward grin. So I did die. For a second there I thought I might just be in a coma. Less than you were, until a few minutes ago. The fight against the Grim Reaper stopped your heart greater than. Soka, kinda hard to believe considering I'm still here, and you. Are you some kind of demon that's possessing me? Sato asked. Less than that would be impossible. I am just a skill you acquired during your reincarnation. I have no control over you unless given permission greater than. I have no idea what that means. Why did this lady just call me a demon? Sato thought to himself. The door to the prison room suddenly opened and Benaheim walked in. Her outfit was just the same as the women in the room. She had black long hair, a rocking body, and her face were soothing enough to make Sato stare even if it was for some seconds. She walked toward the cell and looked at Sato, who was trying to keep a straight face, so he doesn't show any weakness. Isla, you really wanted to keep this from me? Heim muttered before turning to face the girl with the blonde hair. I'm sorry, we didn't want to bother you, I swear. Isla immediately responded with a sad expression. Benaheim sighed. No need to fret over it, but be sure never to keep a secret from me again. It won't happen again, Isla replied after giving a silent squeak. Now that has been cleared up, let's head back to the Goron. You all are due for some questioning. Ah, shit. I think I know how this goes. Sato muttered. ... Author's note. I would really appreciate your comment and support of this novel with your power stones. Your active comments would motivate me to write more chapters. First person. I opened my eyes to find myself resting on the ground. I must have fallen asleep after waiting for so long for them to come back. The females who locked me in here haven't even shown up once to check on me. Who knows how long I've been here? 2, 3, 7 hours, or maybe a whole day. I sighed. I could feel my body freezing up from the chill breeze that was passing through the window. I came in contact with this world during nighttime, so I wasn't sure if this was even the sunny season or not, but I also know it wasn't this cold before. I rested my head on the wall while looking at the open window. It's so cold, geez, at least give me a blanket, I don't want to freeze to death, I muttered. Less than skill acquired, cold resistance greater than. It's that voice again. I questioned, the cold I was feeling was suddenly gone, but now that only made the air feel warmer. Perfect, now I'm hot, can you make the heat go away too? I asked, rolling my eyes, expecting to hear the voice. Less than request confirmed, the skill heat resistance, obtained greater than. Damn, I was shocked, and even though it all seemed strange to me, I couldn't help but feel excited. Voice, do you have a name? I asked. Less than I have none greater than. I should give you a name, I said, racking my brain as I struggled to come up with one, but that seemed more difficult than expected. It must have been from the hunger I was feeling, I felt dumber than the time I took a pop-up test in class. Before I knew it, I had already given up and was now asking a different question. How am I able to obtain these skills? I asked. Less than notice, the skill wisher lets you acquire simple skills that you wish for to suit your precise predicament greater than. I see, how many of these skills do I have? Rho alpha D alpha and nu L. Less than skills obtained after reincarnation. Unique skill analysis. I am the unique skill analysis, an artificial magical core. I reside in the host's body and maintain everything needed to be overseen. Unique skill conceal grants the host the ability to absorb mana from a magic source, and if enough mana is drowned, host will be able to make a replica of the magic. And the unique skill wisher. Host also obtained these skills after using conceal on the Grim Reaper. Dark mist gives the host the ability to dematerialize himself so long as he has mana to sustain the form. Imprison grants host the power to suck anything into your special void and trap it there. Perception grants host the ability to track, sense magic, and other skills, magic sense, that can be used to track greater than. I have 3 unique skills, isn't that a little too op? I thought to myself, from what the monotonous voice was saying, it seemed like I gained the extra skill after defeating the Grim Reaper guy. Show me how to use these skills, starting with conceal, or what was it? Less than request confirmed greater than. Less than host can use his skill conceal on the low-level monster crawling on the wall on your left greater than. I looked to my left to see a green parasite crawling on the wall. It had red marks on its back but was also very small. You want me to kill that? I asked. I didn't think there was any mana to take from the small creature. Less than that is known as a Chelly slime. They are known to merge with objects and alter their shapes and texture greater than. Less than if hosts conceal its mana, there's a 90% chance of host gaining those skills greater than. Is that a fact? I was certainly intrigued. I crawled over to the parasite and stretched out my arm, but there was only so far I could go with the chains on my hands. Here goes, conceal. A bright light shone on my hands and I could see the red threads form at the tips of my finger. I gulped down my spit as I felt the rush of power flowing through my finger like I was having a huge rush of blood in my hand. Rho alpha D alpha *N nu ohm. I slowly moved my finger forward and made contact with the smile. The threads networked toward the slime and began to cover its body. I watched as the slime fell to the ground after having its mana sucked from its body by the glowing threads. It worked. I smiled, feeling amazed. The slime that I had just used my skill on had recovered its mana so fast and was now heading toward the window, probably to escape from me. Less than notice, the skill merge has been obtained. This skill grants the host the ability to merge with things, which also involves magic and skills. Warning, I'd advise using this skill in only non-living things greater than. Less than notice, the skill alter has been obtained, grants the host the ability to alter types of equipment and surroundings but needs to be leveled up for stronger influence greater than. Less than notice, the skill mana restoration, obtained greater than. Less than notice, would you like to merge the skill conceal and demolish? Greater than. I was speechless. She got everything to the last letter. I wondered how she knew I would possess those skills, but I didn't feel the need to ask. Sure, I gave my response. Less than confirmed, the skill devour obtained, after merging the unique skill conceal and skill demolish together greater than. Less than notice, host can escape using the skill dark mist greater than. Escaping is one thing, but I don't even know where I am. Less than you are in a small village located in the kingdom Orion. It is considered a wasteland since the population were only filled with few people greater than. I see, that means, it's not even a village. I thought to myself. What about the women? I mean, they should belong somewhere, right? I asked. Less than negative, they are outcasts. They are known as Valkyries, warriors of the god Odin greater than. There are gods here. I suddenly sensed someone walking toward the prison room. It must be my skill working. The sound of the steps tells me they were about 3 heading over. 3 women entered the prison room and walked over to my cell. The lady standing in the middle had long black hair and was holding a rather mysterious spear. She looked at me for a while and her eyes were definitely filled with disgust. Release him from his cell, be sure to get rough if he struggles. The lady said before turning away. The two women standing beside her walked over to my cell and pulled me out. I knew something was about to go down, and I would be lying if I said I didn't want to test my skills out if a fight were to break out. ... Third person. The woman pulled Sato onto the ground while entering the palace. Looking around, he could see women looking at him with hatred in their eyes. Why are they all looking at me like I'm some monster? Oyh, Sato quickly remembered why he was imprisoned in the first place. The woman pushed him to his knees before walking away. He was kneeling in front of Benaheim, the leader of the Valkyries. Benaheim looked down at Sato as she sat on her throne. Why have you infiltrated my village, demon? She asked. Sato glared at her, taking a deep breath before he spoke. Listen, I don't know why you are calling me a demon, but I'm not. He replied with a calm voice. Is that so? Benaheim rested her jaw on her hand, and her red glowing eyes were spreading fear inside Sato. She's so scary, Sato muttered before he began to crawl back slowly. Less than notice, skill obtained, mind manipulation resistance greater than. The fear Sato was feeling suddenly vanished and he was back to his normal self. That was magic, he muttered. Okay then, I'll play their game, Sato grinned before standing to his feet. Hey, don't you dare make a move. Isla yelled. She pulled out her sword and aimed it at Sato's neck. But that didn't faze him, his eyes were still fixed on Benaheim. What do you want to know? I'll answer whatever you ask, Pinky promise. Cooperative, I think we're heading to a great start. What's your name? Benaheim asked again. This time she had her eyes focused on Sato. With her eyes glowing red while she locked gaze with Sato, but this time he felt no fear, so he was able to answer calmly. My name is Sato Inagami. Sato responded. An instant murmuring echoed inside the room from the women seated in the room. He noticed how they were all looking at him with a confused looks. The name he just mentioned seemed to have struck a bit of curiosity in them. What kind of name is that? Isla raised a question, sending a disgusted stare Sato's way as she tilted her head to the side. Sato wasn't sure, but he felt like they were all pulling his leg. His name wasn't all that weird, in fact it was a very popular name in Japan. What do they mean by that? Are they for real? Sato asked himself, looking around to see their faces. The only face that didn't seem to have any bit of confusion but instead still carried a calm expression was Benaheim. After smiling a bit, Benaheim stood up from the lump of wood and walked towards Sato, her alluring dress dancing in the air as breeze blew past her. Sato, that's an unusual name, and where might you come from? Benaheim asked. She stood in front of Sato, using her hand to tilt his jaw up as she looked into his eyes with a smirk on her lips. What the hell am I supposed to say? Sato yelled inward. After panicking, he suddenly gave out a serious look, far away. He replied. Benaheim was a bit shocked by his response. She let go of his jaw and took a step back, far away. She asked. He immediately shook his head positively, agreeing to the question she brought up. I see you must remember where you come from, right? Benaheim muttered. No, I don't, I can't remember. Sato groaned, placing his hands on his head as he tried to remember. I don't know, all I remember was waking up in the foggy forest, .. he uttered. Less than notice, skill acquired, deceit greater than. Sato laughed awkwardly in his mind. That is not a skill I want to have. You bastard. Hina, a girl dressed in a black outfit with a touch of white, spoke up. She had long purple hair and held with her two huge blades, each having a circle-like shape at the end of it. Hina was standing behind Sato with her body enveloped in her magic power. She was brimming with anger as she slowly stretched out her blade that was partially taking some of her magic to embody itself. Sato turned to look at her before slowly raising his two hands to the sky. Wow, calm down, he voiced out. Who the hell do you think you are? I saw you take on a Grim Reaper. So stop with the lies and die already. Hina yelled. She tightened her grip on her double blade, which came pouring with a full force of dark energy packed into it. Sato was a bit startled. Had do you mean lies? I really don't remember. Are you sure it was me you saw? It was pretty dark, you know. Hina immediately dashed toward him. She was so fast that some of the females in the room didn't see her move. The whole place came flowing with a huge force of wind when Hina stopped in front of Sato with one of her blade aimed at his neck. Sato squeaked, pulling his head backward as he felt the tip of the blade on his neck. Shit, she was really trying to kill me. Benaheim sighed before walking toward Hina and using her fingers to push the blade down away from Sato's neck. Learn to control that anger of yours, Hina, calm yourself. Benaheim uttered, before changing her focus back to Sato. I'm sorry, that was irrational, but this monkey is too shady to just believe everything he says. Hina dispatched her blades and gave Sato a deathly gaze. Benaheim smiled. You don't worry yourself about it, I'm sure we can clear this out. Sato stood behind Benaheim, giving out a relieved sigh. I thought I was a goner, even though I did see her coming, still damn. These people are no joke. Sato accidentally thought aloud, Rho Alpha D Alpha .. nu, Om. Benaheim changed her focus back to Sato, and we are to believe that you are saying the truth? She asked. Of course, Sato replied instantly. Damn it, how the hell did I get into this mess? Akari, please do your thing, Bemaheim said before walking over to the wood to sit down. A girl with long black hair and was wearing a kimono that was complemented with the hand fan she was holding stood up from the midst of the women and stepped forward. Akari used the fan to cover the lower part of her face before moving toward Sato. She stared at him for a bit and smiled. You don't have to be so nervous, she whispered to Sato. Yeah, oh, of course, Sato stammered as he tried to give a straight response. Akari giggled, I'll begin now. She voiced out, stretching out her right hand for a sparkling white magic orb to appear. It hovered above her hand, giving a mysterious vibe. What is that? Sato thought to himself. Less than notice, that is an ancient relic called the Eyes of the Ancient. It's a relic used to view into the hearts of people and also forelook possibilities about certain effects greater than. TCH. You speak now. You were quiet for so long that I thought you powered off or something. Less than notice, I was running analysis on the Grim Reaper you have stored in your dimensional space greater than. My dimension what? Please place your right hand on the orb. Akari said, drawing Sato's attention back at her. Oh okay, here I go then. Sato muttered. He carefully placed his hands on the orb and the light began to shine inside the room. Rho Alpha D Alpha and Nu L. That would be enough. Akari uttered. She pulled the orb away from Sato and placed her own hands on it. Everyone waited in their spot quietly, watching as Akari was meditating. Even Sato could feel the seriousness in the atmosphere. Akari suddenly gasped, opening her eyes and looking at the orb with confusion. What's wrong? Isla asked. Is he our enemy? I'll gladly cut him down, if he is. Hina also asked. Damn it, what's with this girl and killing me? Sato yelled inward. That aside, why is she so dramatic all of a sudden? He changed his view back at Akari. Everybody settle, don't just throw questions at her. Benaheim sighed. Akari, what did you see? Akari spread her fans and covered the lower part of her face with it before giving a response. The orb couldn't get a read on him. His entire existence is unknown to this world. They all gasped and didn't think twice before standing to their feet to pull out their weapons. Normally you'd have to belong to a race or species, either you're a demi-human, human, elf, Valkyrie, god, dwarf, something, at least one of any categories. It's impossible to not belong to an Mai. Hina yelled, trying to convince herself that what Akari said was a mistake. I'm afraid to tell, but he isn't. His race is unknown, and although he looks human, he isn't. I've never seen something like this before. Akari muttered as she stared at Sato. Sato was just as confused as the rest. He looked around and their eyes went from confused to terrified. What in the hell? Sato walked over to Akari and held her arms tightly. What the hell did you mean by that? I'm human. Ain't I? He yelled, looking her in the eyes as he pulled closer. Come on, answer me, damn it. Hey, N. Author's note. I would really appreciate your comment in support of this novel with your power stones. Your active comments would motivate me to write more chapters. Let go of her. Hina voiced out. She grabbed Sato's hands and pulled them away from Akari's arms. I'm sorry, Sato uttered with a sad expression on his face before moving away from them. He looked to the ground as he struggled to make sense of what he heard. Hey, voice, what's going on? He asked. Less than noticed during reincarnation, host's origin was not recorded in the world greater than. What the hell do you mean by that? If I'm not human, then what am I then? Less than unknown greater than. What the hell? Benaheim suddenly stomped the ground with her foot to silence the murmuring that was going on in the room. They all kept quiet instantly before changing their focus to Benaheim, who still had a calm expression on her face. Lady Heim, this is strange. I've never heard of something like this happening before. We shouldn't take it so lightly. Akari uttered before walking toward Benaheim. He's non-existent. That shouldn't be possible. Benaheim stared at Sato for a while before sighing. She twitched her eyebrow as she also tried to compose herself. Hey boy. She called out. Sato slowly turned to look at Benaheim. His expression was weak. He didn't even try to add any life to the way turned. He was finally accepting the fact that he died and now he has been reincarnated as another thing, but this thing is exactly what he wants to find out. How did you arrive here? Benaheim asked. I said it before, I don't remember. Sato answered. Benaheim paused for a while. Isla, I want you to guard him of the village and he is never to be seen around here again. Lady Heim, what do you? Isla tried to convince her, but Benaheim wasn't looking to reason. Don't try to change my mind, Isla. Escort him out of here and return immediately. Benaheim uttered before grabbing her sword from the ground and walking away. Leaving Isla and the rest wondering what was going on. Once Benaheim had gone, the remaining warriors began walking toward Sato. Better start talking. What the hell are you? One of the women said, drawing her sword and aiming it at Sato. She wore a black outfit and had multicolored hair mixed with black and a hint of white. Sato looked at the sword with a raging eye before glaring at the woman. He was about to release his magic when Isla suddenly interfered. Ladies, back off, Isla ordered, walking in the middle of Sato and the woman. Put down your sword. Rho Alpha D Alpha N Nu E, CM. Lady Isla, the same thing must not happen again. We better kill him here before he becomes a threat. Put down your sword. Isla repeated, work, her body oozing with light energy and her sword lighting the place. They all started moving away from her and sheathing their sword before looking away in embarrassment. Right after Benaheim, she was considered the second most powerful, hence her status as the second in command. Come on, Isla muttered to Sato before walking out the door. Rizaha, also known as the home of the Valkyries, is a small village located in Orion which is in the Demon Nation. The Nadan had many other kingdoms and towns. Rizaha was located in one of the kingdom, Orion, next to the Dragon Rocks. There are multiple different species located in the Demon Nation, from demi-humans to fairies and the likes. But Rizaha was considered an independent village. It was located somewhere in the Forest of Witches close to the Dragon Rocks. As the name suggested, the forest was home to witches. Words had it that the whole forest was filled with magic which was meant to seal a certain celestial being in the forest. And as luck would have it, Sato managed to land in the Forest of Witches. Isla directed him away from the village until she made up her mind that it was far enough. This is as far as I can take you. Isla voiced out. She held her sword in her hand while keeping a calm expression. Sato didn't bother looking at her face. Throughout the entire time, his face had been focused in front of him and he didn't look back once. Thank you, Sato muttered. He began walking forward, leaving Isla standing with her hand on her hips. Hey, voice, how do I make my way around here? Sato asked. Less than question confirmed. There is a nearby city outside the forest. It's called Namrik. The population is high and filled supernatural species greater than. I see, Sato muttered. From behind him came footsteps. He turned to check and saw Isla walking past him. She was walking so fast, for a second there he thought she was someone else. What are you doing here? Sato asked. Isla stopped walking and turned to aim her sword at Sato. Listen. You said you don't remember anything, right? Which means finding your way around will be tough. Monsters are lurking in every corner. She voiced out. Rho alpha d alpha backquote n nu, ohm. Even if you are shady, I feel helping you is the right thing to do, so shut up and follow me, she said before pushing her sword down. You're helping me. Yeah, I am. Got a problem with that? No, whatever you say, I'm cool with it. Isla sighed. Better, then let's go. Sure. She kept escorting him to the path that lead out of the forest, and throughout their walks, neither of them said anything to the other. Hey, voice. Do you know where she's taking me? Sato asked. Less than question confirmed. She took a left route. Patterns indicate you are currently on the path to the kingdom of Killins greater than. I see, that should be a perfect place to practice some of the skills you've been mentioning. Less than affirmative greater than. I should give you a name, Shiro uttered, using his hand to move the leaf away from his face as he entered another path. Less than. Greater than. How about I know Helix. Sato smiled. Less than. Does host want me to save the name? Helix is my name. Greater than. Yeah, less than. Name saved. Artificial core now named Helix greater than. Less than. Notice, the skill record has been obtained greater than. The hell, I got a new skill again. Sato thought out loud. What are you saying? Isla asked, looking back at him with a questionable face. Nothing, please carry on. Weirdo, anyway, Isla emitted before giving Sato a disgusted look. We're here, Isla said, charging her focus away from Sato and to the leaf covering their path. Less than. Notice, I detect multiple live forms moving in at an alarming rate greater than. Isla was about to open the leaf when Sato suddenly yelled before dashing toward her. Wait, step back, Sato yelled. He pulled Isla back with her cloth while moving his own body forward. Elves dashed through the leaves and fired a long arrow at Sato. As soon as his feet touched the ground, Sato held the arrow before it could damage his face. Isla was shocked. She immediately pulled out her sword and took a defensive stance. Elves. What are elves doing here? She questioned. Multiple elves surrounded the entrance, each of them holding a bow and arrow that was aimed at Sato. Well, I would say I'm surprised, but I'm not the Valkyries, fallen warriors. A dark elf wearing brown trousers with no top came out of the leaves. He had a sinister smile on his face as he stared at Isla. What are you doing so far in here? Sato threw the arrow on the ground. Are you guys by chance elf? He asked, keeping his facial expression completely stern. Dark elf. Are you blind? The dark elf shouted. My name is Orlan Bawask, and my friend, you just stepped into the wrong territory and I'm afraid that can't be overlooked. Orlan smiled before pulling a knife. Isla rested her back on Sato's. Listen to me, when I give the signal I want you to run. She whispered. You want to run? Sato asked, aren't you supposed to be some kind of warrior? Just shut up and do as I say. Sure, your move. ... Author's note. I would really appreciate your comment and support of this novel with your power stones. Your active comments would motivate me to write more chapters. Benaheim walked into her room with Akari following behind her. Amongst the other Valkyries, Akari was the closet to Benaheim, which was why she became her personal advisor. Are you sure that was a wise move, Lady Heim? Akiho asked. She dropped the orb on the center table before attending to Benaheim. Benaheim was standing close to the mirror, waiting for Akari to pull off her clothes so she could have a bath. What do you mean? Benaheim asked. She stretched out both her arms as she waited for Akari. Akari moved closer and slowly began pulling off Benaheim's clothes. My orb read nothing from him, which has never happened before. Something quite similar happened in the past. Expect I was able to read him, but his guy was different and we just let him go. Feels. I understand your worry, Akari, but remember, he never did us any wrong. Benaheim said, keeping him here is both injustice and slavery. Akari picked up the clothes from the floor and began folding them. You're right, my lady, I apologize for disturbing you with that question. Benaheim walked away and headed toward the side of her bed to grab the towel that was hanged there. No need to be so formal, Akari, you are my advisor, loosen up a bit. Benaheim smiled, now if anyone asks, tell them I went to take a dip in the river. She uttered before leaving the room through the back door. Her room was just right behind a pool of water that runs down from different villages in the kingdom of Fiora. Akari slowly stood up from the ground and placed the clothes in the drawer. I hope you're right, my lady. She sighed before leaving the room. Back in the forest, Sato and Isla had been surrounded by the elves, making them outnumbered 6-2. Resisting is futile, we have the whole place surrounded, just give in and follow us calmly, isn't that hard if you think about it? The male elf said. Sato had a calm expression as he slowly used his eyes to scan all the elves one by one until he spotted a female elf dressed in a ninja-like way. She had dark hair and was a bit small in stature, her collar covered the lower half of her face and a small katana could be seen resting vertically on her back. Wow, is that a real ninja? Sato was shocked, he was about to walk toward the elf when another elf spoke. Let's just get them already, we're wasting more time. The male elf yelled. Rho Alpha D Alpha and Nu L. Relax, we can just take in when there's a mons. Before Orland could finish his statement, a loud roar coming from the tress behind the village echoed throughout the forest. Now, Isla yelled, using the distraction of roar, she used the blade on her hand to rotate as she sliced up some of the trees around her. The trees went falling to the ground, blocking the path of the elves and showing Isla an escape route. She immediately grabbed Sato's hand and began running. Get them! Orland shouted. The elves began chasing them with their incredible agility, jumping from tress to tress while firing their arrows. Isla kept on dodging, running in between trees and flying over boulders. This way she sought to create confusion for them. Shouldn't we just try to talk to them? Sato voiced while following Isla's movement. Shut up and run, Isla responded. He sighed, yo, computer lady. Elves are considered good creatures, right? So why the hell are they attacking us? Sato asked. Less than question confirmed, elves are considered peaceful and welcoming to any outsiders who are looking for accommodations in their environment, although they are wary of humans due to past event but not to the point of where they'll lead to ambush greater than. So they are good people then, I knew it. Sato muttered. The elf ninja suddenly emerged in front of them from the ground before slamming her hand on the ground. The earth was erected, causing a massive wall to appear that blocked Isla's path, but she didn't slow down even after seeing it. Isla leapt to the sky before using her sword to slice the thick rock in half, leaving the elf ninja surprised at the sight. After Isla had landed on the ground, she immediately booted the ninja with a powerful kick. The elf went flying and crashed into one of the trees. Before she could get back up, Isla was already in front of her. With a raging scream, Isla raised her sword and icy steam began to surround the tip of the blade. She stroked her sword down only for it to be stopped by Sato, who stood beside her. Sato held the blade with his left hand while standing in front of the elf. Hey. Hold on and think about this. He voiced. His hand was rapidly turning into ice and it was networking all the way to his neck, but thanks to his cold resistance he didn't quite feel it. Rho Alpha D Alpha _ and Nu, Om. Isla instantly pulled her sword away from Sato's grip. Have you gone insane? What the hell is wrong with you? Isla yelled as she looked at Sato's frozen arm. Less than notice, the skill ice magic, obtained greater than. Sato smiled, figured as much, he thought to himself before turning to the elf. Are you okay? He asked. The elf and Isla watched as the ice began to melt from his arm and start dripping from his fingers. The elf stood up and pulled out a kunai that was resting at the side of the thigh. She took a defensive stance and slowly took steps back. Why did you help me just now? The elf ninja asked. I'd be lying if I said I had a reason, call it an intuition, all I want to know is why you are suddenly attacking us. Sato asked. Isla grabbed Sato's arm, which had been frozen before, and looked at it with confusion. How were you able to cancel my magic? She asked. I have ice magic too. Sato replied. Even so, it shouldn't have been that easy, Isla uttered again. She was still shocked at the whole thing. The rest of the elves started coming in from different directions. Sato quickly turned into dust and went behind the elf ninja. A scythe appeared on his hand and he aimed it at her neck. I thought you were good, what are you doing? The elf ninja muttered. I'm not going to hurt you, I promise. Sato whispered back. Orland came out of the woods and began clapping his hands. That's a bold move you've made there. He said. If you think I'm going to stop my attack just because you managed to take one of my people hostages, then you must be dumber than I thought. Oh, shut up. Sato voiced out. The least you could do is tell us why you are attacking. You don't just randomly attack people and expect them not to run. Orland grinned. Ever heard the saying curiosity killed the cat? This guy is really pissing me off. Sato's eyebrow twitched in annoyance. Less than notice analysis complete. Your opponent is not an elf like the others, he is a dark elf greater than. Aren't those guys supposed to be evil? Sato asked. Less than affirmative, they are known for their expertise in manipulation and dark magic greater than. Why didn't you tell me this earlier? Less than the dark elf had an alternating magic that made it hard to read into his physique, I had to analyze with care greater than. I see. Hey, you've gone quiet all of a sudden, what's wrong? You finally scared, Orland mocked. Hey, did you know he's a dark elf? Sato silently asked the elf he was holding, but she didn't give any response. Instead, she was actually shocked, she was wondering how exactly he knew that. Sato stretched out his scythe, you're a dark elf aren't you? Everybody gasped as soon as Sato said it. Orland frowned his face before shouting. Bow him down. Kill him. But sir, he had Elena with him. I said bow him down, you idiots. Orland yelled again. They all aimed their arrow at Sato, but their faces were driven by fear, and their hands trembled. Why the hell did you provoke him? Isla said as she slowly moved toward him with her back. Don't worry, he can't do a single thing, Sato said with his scythe still stretched out, in fact. I dare him to. Orland grinned, what's the holdup? Bow him down already, he yelled, frowning his face as he furiously pointed at Sato. The elves began firing arrows, aiming carefully at Sato even though they were shaking in fear. Sato immediately let go of Elena and whooshed to the front, he began spinning the scythe around to deflect the fast-moving arrows. He just deflected our arrows like they were nothing. One of the elves standing on the tree branch muttered. Fire again, Orland yelled. Sato charged toward him while using his scythe to deflect all the arrows from all directions with ease. Sato managed to get close to Orland and was ready to attack when he suddenly saw the grin on Orland's face. Got ya, Orland sang, he tapped his fingers, and Sato was soon covered in flames. There was a magic circle that Orland had already planted on the floor, so when Sato passed over it, it denoted like a bomb. Watching as Sato was burning in the flames put a smile on Orland's face, the rest were shocked, most especially Isla. Damn you, Isla yelled, holding herself as she couldn't make a decision whether to attack him or not. Burn, burn, Orland laughed, see this. This is what happens when you defy the dark elves. If any of you defy me, I'll do the same thing to your families, and then nothing will remain of your villages. Do you understand me? Orland asked while pointing his knives at the elves. With sad expressions on their faces, they replied in unison, we understand. Ah, Sokka, that explains why the elves are working for a jackass like you. Everybody gasped in shock as soon as they saw Sato walking out of the fire. The flames on his body were going off as ice steams began putting out the fire. The hell, how are you still alive? Orland yelled, moving back to get some space. This hurts like hell, can you make the pain stop? Sato uttered, walking slowly towards Orland with his body still on fire. Less than request confirmed greater than. Less than notice, the skill pain nullification, obtained greater than. Perfect. All the flames around Sato's body burned out, leaving his body bare naked as his clothes began to turn into ashes. His skin had been burnt by the flames, but with his new skill, he could barely feel the pain. Stay back, don't come any closer. Orland yelled before falling to his butt, he began crawling away with his butt rubbing against the ground. Bow him down, damn it. Orland yelled again. The elves began setting in new arrows to fire, but before they could fire them, Sato made his move. Bang! Sato voiced out, symbolizing his hands like that of a gun, he aimed it at one of the elves and fired an ice crystal at them. He kept on doing this till he had destroyed all their bow, leaving the elves speechless. Sato changed his focus and began his advance toward Orland, is this really the best you can offer? Hold on, wait, please don't kill me, I'll give you whatever you want. Orland begged, women, money, I can give you all, these stinking elves have a lots of women to spear. I see, Sato muttered, well here's the thing, you are going to have to answer my question, or else I can't stop what's going to happen next. Why did you attack us? Sato asked again. Isla had already held Elena, with her sword aimed at her neck before using her as a body shield just in case any of the elves planned to attack. Orland stood up from the ground after hearing Sato's question, is that all you want to know? He asked. Yes, Sato replied, Rho Alpha D Alpha *N Nu, Om. Every year the elves hold a ceremony where they bring offerings to their savior, a flamed angel that saved them from the attack of a dragon. Orland uttered, he paused before he continued. But this year, something happened that pretty much confirmed our doom, the seal that was placed on the flame bird was breached by my brother, and now the god bird is angry, we woke it from its nap and it wants revenge, but if we give it another sacrifice it's sure to calm down. Flamed angel, do you have any idea what he's talking about? Sato asked his analysis skill. Less than question confirmed. From them the description given, the foe is most likely a phoenix bird greater than. The system then proceeded to show Sato images and the history of the phoenix bird. Where is this bird now? Sato asked Orland. It's in the village, still trapped in the cave it had always been in for the past 500 years. Orland replied. Take me there, Sato uttered, and everyone immediately wore a shocked look on their faces, especially Isla, who pushed Elena to the side before walking towards Sato. What the hell are you thinking? You want to be their sacrifice. I didn't go to all this trouble just to have you become a sacrifice to some bird. Sato smiled. Relax, I'm not going there to become a sacrifice. He smiled. You're not? Isla asked with a confused expression. Then why do you want to meet the god bird? If you're hoping to defeat it, then I'm sorry you are. Rho Alpha D Alpha N Nu E, CM. Orland was immediately interrupted by Sato's words. If this bird has protected you for years, then it must have some connection with its people. I want to do is communicate with it, that's all, so please take me there. He voiced out while looking Orland in the eye. Orland looked around to see the faces on the elves. Those expressions were one that he knew they had made up their minds. After sighing, he turned his back and started walking to the village. All right, fine, I'll take you there, he said while walking away. They walked to the village after crossing a small bridge that had water flowing under it. The village wasn't that big, there were multiple leaf houses and a few clay-made houses too. The elves' villagers all had their eyes on Sato and the rest as they entered the village. After passing the middle of the forest, they were suddenly confronted by the chief of the forest. He had no top on and had only animal skin around his waist. The elves were already packing, seemed like they were looking to vacate the place as soon as possible. Orland, were you able to get a sacrifice for the god bird? The village head asked. He was also a dark elf. Sato noticed as he looked around that the village was mostly filled with elves and dark elves didn't even pass the number 4. Less than notice, high magic release in the R, finding a safe place till you come up with a fight pattern is advised greater than. Thanks for the warning, do you know where the bird is? Sato asked. He could see Orland discussing with the head of the village. Less than affirmative greater than. A map suddenly showed up in Sato's eye view. He saw the red blinking circle on the map which indicated where the phoenix was. Perfect, Sato muttered before taking to his heels and heading straight for the phoenix. Hey, the village head yelled, don't just stand there, get him. All the guard elves in the vicinity that had a weapon with them began chasing Sato. ... Author's note. I would really appreciate your comment in support of this novel with your power stones. Your active comments would motivate me to write more chapters. Sato whooshed past the leaves and trees as he began heading toward the red point on the map. The elves were following behind him, but his speed was unmatched, they couldn't catch up to him. I really ought to come up with a name for you, Sato uttered while charging toward the location of the shrine. Less than notice. Name has already been given. Greater than. Sato, not paying attention, began racking his head for a name he could call the system as he ran past Tress. How about, oh I know, Helix. Sato muttered before ceasing his advance, that's what I'll call you. Helix, pretty cool eye. He smiled, admiring his greatness. Less than name confirmed. Helix greater than. Great, now what am I looking at? Sato asked. He was standing in front of a small altar that was in the middle of 2 large boulders. It had strings of paper tied around it, each having magic energy dancing over it. Looks like a shrine, Sato uttered while slowly moving closer to the shrine. Less than notice, this is the confinement of the phoenix. The seal appears to be getting weaker by the minute. Running away for a fight pattern is advised greater than. Sato suddenly heard Orland and some elves racing behind him with their weapons with them. What the hell do you think you're doing? Orland yelled, panting as he pointed his dagger at Shiro. This is the deity protecting your village, isn't it? Sato asked before turning to look at Orland. Yeah, what's it to you? Orland grinned as he slowly moved toward Shiro. Sato changed his focus back to the shrine. Helix. Is it possible to communicate with the phoenix while it's still trapped in the rock? He asked. Less than negative. The seal on the shrine cancels all means of magic. Communicating with it is impossible via magical means greater than. I see. Sato sighed. He turned his back on the shrine and walked away with disbelief. Can't believe I wasted all that time. I should have confirmed first, he muttered. Orland was standing in Sato's path with his dagger still aimed out. He laughed before frowning his face. What? Finally realize there's no way to calm our ruler. Well, know that it matters. I wasn't going to let you leave anyway, Orland uttered. All the elves standing behind him aimed their arrows at Sato. You might be strong, but even you can dodge an attack coming from all directions, said Orland. Rho Alpha D Alpha N Nu L. Sato didn't say a single word. His eyes were fixated on the floor. It was bad enough that he found himself in a new world, but now he has to be a sacrifice to some village's god. Screw this, Sato yelled. He changed his focus back to the shrine and charged toward it, leaving the elves speechless. Upon getting to the shrine, Sato leapt to the sky before deploying his scythe. Might as well see what the fuck you're afraid of. He went falling to the ground with his scythe covered in dark energy as it sliced the shrine in 2, causing the 2 boulders to fall on themselves. Sato stood up and turned to look at the shocked expression that were plastered on the elves' faces, almost like they had just seen a ghost. One of the elves suddenly yelled as he panicked, we're done for. He broke the seal. Orland fell to his knees with his eyes fixated on the destroyed shrine. No way, he muttered. Sato sighed. Relax you, weirdos, there's nothing. Before Sato could finish his statement, there was a sudden sound that resonated throughout the forest. It sounded like multiple bells were clinking against each other. The loud sound of the bell began to affect the ears of those that could hear it, causing their ears to bleed and for their head to swell from the delusion. Everyone within range of the shrine bell sound fell to the ground as they desperately tried to block the sounds by covering their ears. Sato screamed, while using his hand to cover his ear from the noise. His body was still badly burnt from the previous fire and the sound was making the pain surface back. Rho alpha d alpha backquote n nu, ohm. Less than notice, the skill sound manipulation, obtained greater than. The sound suddenly reduced inside Sato's head, leaving only the screams of the elves for him to hear. He stood up from the ground, panting heavily before using his hand to clean the blood in his ear. Thanks Helix, he uttered. Upon getting to his feet, a loud screech of a bird was heard which came with a full force of fire that blew Sato away. He went flying and crashing into one of the trees with his back before landing on the ground. He groaned in pain shortly after he stood up from the ground before dusting his body from the painless fall. What the hell is that? Sato questioned. Positioned a few feet away from him was a giant bird that was flaming all over its body. The hellish bell sound stopped after the phoenix gave out another scream, which made the irritation all the elves were feeling stop. They began to stand up from the ground as they murmured about what they all thought happened. One of the elves spotted the phoenix and fear instantly took over. Oh Lord Rava, save us, it's the god bird. The elf yelled, alerting everyone about the phoenix. As soon as the rest of the elves saw the bird, they all took to their heels and ran, while some just stood there fear-struck from the sight. Isla ran into the scene and even she was frightened by the sight of the gigantic phoenix. She moved back slowly, watching as the phoenix landed on the ground with a blaze of fire following it around. It's a real phoenix. She stuttered. Looking to her right, she saw Sato standing opposite the bird with his damaged body. What the hell is he thinking? She tried to run to his side, but the heat the phoenix was giving out was too much. Sato kept a close eye on the phoenix, making sure he didn't make any sudden moves to make the phoenix attack him. Helix, I should be able to communicate with it now, right? Shiro asked. Less than affirmative, greater than. Sato took a deep breath while he thought of what to say. Yo birdie. Sato yelled. The bird moved its head closer to Sato before giving out another loud shriek. Degree, you speak the language of a rare species. What are you? Degree. Sato was shocked when he figured out that he understood what the bird was saying. He didn't even know that a smile made its way to his lips. It's working, Sato muttered. Okay, the people of the village are worried about. The phoenix suddenly interrupted. The people of this village have defied me yet again. I have lost my patience. I'm not a mere bird. I am Devanshi, the supreme ruler of the east, and I will burn everything to the ground, starting from the one who woke me from my slumber. The phoenix yelled. It whooshed to the sky, leaving aches of its flames burning on the ground and trees. This isn't good. Wasn't I the one they woke up from? Looking up, Sato could see the phoenix charging toward him from the sky down. Its wings spread wide with its flames and its body was shooting down like a falling rocket. After realizing the phoenix was after him, Sato took to his feet and began running. Shit, I have no choice but to fight back. Damn it, pretty exciting. He smiled. ... Author's note. I would really appreciate your comment and support of this novel with your power stones. Your active comments would motivate me to write more chapters. Sato utilized one of the trees as a walking stone before leaping to the sky with his hand held out while he flipped over the phoenix. Devour! He screamed out. A dark like thick mist poured right out of his hand and went sucking in the phoenix mana. After flipping over to the other side of the phoenix, Sato went landing on his legs while huffing from the rush of excitement. This should be enough to copy its powers, right? He inquired of. Less than negative opponent is a rank SS plus monster. A lot more mana is needed for a successful copy. Greater than. Damn it. Sato went to his knees and was getting ready to throw himself toward the phoenix again. Well, second time's the charm. He muttered before grinning. With a whoosh of breeze, Sato unexpectedly found the phoenix stationed in front of him. The phoenix was so immediate that the trees in the area went flying from their roots after the sonic boom. Holy! The phoenix then gave Sato a slap to the side with its wings, which sent Sato tumbling onto the ground, and before he could retain balance, the bird was already beside him. It spat out a huge fireball that crushed the ground and Sato together in one hit. Wild demolition was caused and the ground went splitting in two. Sato managed to evade the blast, but just scarcely. The fire still caught up to him, hence the reason why he was spreaded on the floor. Less than mana restoration, greater than. Sato darted to the sky as he started feeling tiny senses of ache in his body. That should have killed me. That was no ordinary attack. It still hurts even with my pain resistance. Sato unhurriedly stood up from the ground, snorting with every movement he made before he was able to stand on both his feet. He struggled to keep his balance while his eyes were fixed on the phoenix. It was giving out loud screams while fire encircled its whole body. What is this guy thinking? Fighting with a deity is nothing but suicide. Isla spoke as she took a round turn around the trees to try and ambush the phoenix from behind. The rest of the elves were still face-shocked from the way they oversaw Sato battle a divine beast, something a mere human couldn't hope to do. The phoenix scattered its wings before charging at full speed towards Sato again, but even with that Sato didn't advance from his spot. Isla and the elves were wondering why he just stood there. They assumed he had a move he hadn't shown yet, but after catching a glimpse of how powerful the phoenix was charging at him, they began to second their belief because no one could survive an attack like that head-on. Before the phoenix could get close to Sato, he gripped his fist as he delivered a raging scream. Damn bird, don't fuck with me. With his left leg pinched from the ground, he punched the bird in the face, which sent it scrambling and breaking the trees it collapsed on. While Sato fell to the ground after losing his balance, did I get it? He murmured to himself. Less than Afrimar if that was a direct hit greater than. Sato smiled. Soka, I don't think I can fight any more, he uttered as he scanned his burnt-up arm and sigh. He just punched a divine being in the face. Orland uttered in astonishment. Sato gradually stood up from the ground and took in a deep breath. I can't give up now, the fuck kind of mick would I be? Boom. He launched his body to the front before charging toward the phoenix at maximum speed, ignoring everything else around him. Not yet, run. He yelled as he approached the phoenix, gasping with every step he took. When he got closer, the phoenix also stood up from the ground and sent a thrill of flames Sato's way. Sato rasped, but he didn't waver, taking a quick stop with his leg still gliding against the ground. He cried out, devour. His dark mist initiated to take over the flames, but that didn't last for long. The phoenix flames were starting to surround his own mist. Lame Sato's way. Sato rasped, but he didn't waver, taking a quick stop with his leg still gliding against the ground. He cried out, devour. His dark mist initiated to take over the flames, but that didn't last for long. The phoenix flames were starting to surround his own mist. Both forces smashed against each other, causing everything around them to blow away from the huge force they were creating. The flames grew so big that some began whooshing past Sato while he worked to maintain his skill. Not yet, he yelled. Without hesitating, Sato dropped his hand and ran straight into the flames while screaming at the top of his lungs, not yet. Splitting the flames in two with his body, Sato positioned his hand on the phoenix's head before yelling again, devour. His dark mist coated the whole of the phoenix, causing the flames it was shooting out to snuff out. The phoenix struggled to get free from Sato's clutches, but he didn't let go. He held its head while releasing all his mist over its body. Less than notice. Magic energy reducing rapidly greater than. Sato was sagging, but he didn't let go. He hung on until the phoenix fell stomach flat to the ground before he also fell to one knee. Isla was amazed at the sight. Sato was overpowering a divine beast, but she could also tell he was also being affected. Rho alpha d alpha _ n nu, Om. Just die already. Sato mumbled as he fought with the instinct to keep his eyes open. Wait. Okay, I get it. I won't attack the elves again. I'll do whatever you want, so please just let go already. Sato heard a female voice come out from the phoenix's mouth. He let go of the phoenix, whose flames only covered its back now. Hey, did it just concede? Sato thought out loud. A bright red light shone on the phoenix bird and it immediately altered into a girl. She had red hair and a red beautiful dress that labeled her stateliness at first sight. Who are you calling it? I'm a she, I'll have you know, and my name is Devanshi. The girl voiced out while sweeping her hair to the side. Sato stood there and didn't utter a word. All he did was gape at the girl before giving an awkward grimace. I risked my life for this, he stuttered with his eyes still fixed on Devanshi. Devanshi pouted at him before tilting her head to look at the other elves who were just as shocked at Sato. Hey, you, I'm sparing your lives, so be grateful, degenerates. She shouted while pointing at them. Hi, they all responded at once. And as for you. Sato suddenly fell unconscious with his head sleeping on Devanshi's boobs. She gave out a tiny squeak before yelling. Gee, get off me, you filthy vermin. Get off. ... Benaheim walked out of the bathroom with a towel wrapped around her body. She headed toward her bed and sat down. Her room had been divided with a long cloth, keeping one half of the room for visitors and the other half for Benaheim's use. Benaheim removed the towel around her body and began drying her hair with it. The texture of the towel was drying her hair fast due to the magic embedded in it. Excuse me, a female voice came from the other side of the room. Benaheim stood up from the bed with the towel in her hands. Do you need something, Akari? Benaheim uttered before opening the clothes that divided the room. She wrapped the towel around her body and sat down on the black chair that was close to the window. It's about the prisoner we just released. Do you think that was the right call? Akari asked with the hand fan covering her lips. Are you worried? Or have you perhaps taken a liking to the boy? Benaheim asked before crossing her legs and smiling, revealing her legs to Akari. Akari looked away, feeling flustered from the sight. Well, it's just I've never seen a reason like this before. What if he ends up becoming a threat to use one day? If that were to happen, then we'll take them out like we do any of our foes. Benaheim stood up from the chair and reached the other side of the room to pick up her clothes that were laying on the bed. She pulled them close to her before tossing her towel to the side and putting on her underwear. What he does shouldn't be our problem, our people come first, every other thing is not our concern. Benahim uttered with a sweep of her hair as she put on her dress. I understand, Lady Haim, but I would be lying if I said I felt a strong connection with him. Akari said while looking at the ceiling. There was a sudden knock on the door and it was just the right timing since Benahim was done dressing. Yes, come in, Benahim voiced out. Isla walked into the office panting as she dropped her sword to the ground and walked over to Benahim. Lady Haim, we have to take him under us. Isla yelled. What are you talking about? Akari asked. The non-existent prisoner, we need him if we are going to change this war. Isla yelled with confidence written all over her face. Author's note. Rho Alpha D Alpha N Nu L. I would really appreciate your comment and support of this novel with your power stones. Your active comments would motivate me to write more chapters. I feel like I've been sleeping forever. Sato snorted. How long was I out? He inquired of with his eyes opening slowly. I'm still so tired. Less than notice, you've been asleep for 4 days greater than. 4 days. Sato shouted. He instantly aroused from his sleep and found himself lying on a small bed in a diminutive building. He sat upright before glancing around him to get a view of the room. There were 3 lanterns filled with green glowing bugs that lit the room. The middle of the room had animal skin on the floor and on the walls labeled with different face masks. Sato could hear the murmuring of people outside the hut he was in. He sighed before standing up from the bed. Once he was up, he took a deep breath to calm his nerves before bursting out in anger. What the hell? Where am I? Hold on, Sato, chill. I remember very well. I defeated the Firebird girl and then. Sato laid over his mouth with his hand in stunner before falling to his knees. Don't tell me I've been kidnapped again. He yelled inward. Less than negative greater than. Less than during the 4 days you have spent here, I have carefully observed the keeper's behavior toward you. I sense no hostility. You should be wary of greater than. That's reassuring, I guess. Sato muttered before walking back to sit on the bed. The flashbacks of when he battled the phoenix bird began to resurface, causing him to sigh and fall flat on the bed. I can't believe I fought something like that and survived. He spoke while looking at the ceiling. Helix, about the phoenix, did I murder it? Sato asked with a hint of hesitation in his voice. Less than question confirmed negative. The divine beast survived greater than. Soak, I thought I had it. Didn't I use my devour skill to suck out its mana or something? Even that didn't kill it. Damn, Sato muttered with a calm voice. He was feeling weirdly cozy on the bed and was slowly starting to fall asleep again. Less than notice defeating the phoenix, host acquired its skills after devour was used to absorb mana from its flames greater than. Sato sat upright again. Wait, you mean I have skills from a phoenix? He asked. Less than affirmative greater than. Then what are you waiting for, tell me? Sato exclaimed. Less than request confirmed skills gained from phoenix greater than. Opening square bracket. Less than fire mimicry, this comes with additional sub-skills. Incineration touch grants host the ability to incinerate anything with a single touch. Greater than. Hellfire, holy fire, allows host to use holy fire as an attack or defensive weapon. Photokinesis, allows host to manipulate light magic at will. Greater than. Less than evolve grants host the ability to evolve, this also applies to host's properties. Greater than. Less than superhuman. Super speed, grants host the ability to move at the speed of light. Super strength, grants host the ability of superhuman strength. Thinker accelerates host's ability to process thoughts 1,000 times faster than normal. Immorality, host can't die from any natural means. Greater than. Less than healing. Healing factor, allows host to heal target via injury, poison, paralysis, etc. Self-reincarnation, all host to reincarnate soul if killed, but times of reincarnation varies. Self-heal, grants host the ability to self-heal all attacks inflicted. Greater than. Less than shape-shifting, host has the ability to transform into creatures in custody or learned. Greater than. Closing square bracket. Sato just sat on the bed with a dumbfounded expression that just kept growing as Helix called out his skills. Isn't this a little too much? Sato cut in. Less than greater than. Would you like me to discard some skills? Greater than. No, I'm fine with it. Sato replied. Why wouldn't I want to be up? He gave out a lustrous face. Less than the skill evolve can now be activated. Skills in the arsenal that can currently go through evolve. Perception, knowledge, devour, analysis greater than. Less than would you like me to evolve these skills? Greater than Rho Alpha D Alpha _ N Nu, Ohm. Yeah sure, he responded. Less than request confirmed. The unique skill analysis evolved degree greater unique skill, great sage. Skill perception degree unique skill perceive. Greater than. Less than notice the unique skill perceive, acquired as lesser ultimate skill. Greater than. Less than evolving the unique skill devour to the ultimate skill predator greater than. The hell, you didn't tell me my sub-skills for the other one. Sato yelled. Less than evolving the skill knowledge. Ultimate skill recorded acquired. Greater than. Less than sub-task completed. Greater than. Did she just ignore me? Sato alarmed. Less than noticed the ultimate skill predator can now be used to materialize substances they had been devoured. Caution, the chances of predator being successful when devouring a being with a conscience is lessened greater than. Sato sighed, look, I don't understand what you are saying, just do you, I guess. He uttered. Less than I haven't completed my task, the being still residing in your void could be materialized with the ultimate skill predator greater than. I just said do you. Sato voiced before standing at his feet. Less than do I have permission to run on auto mode? Greater than. Yeah sure, wait what? Less than commersing auto mode greater than. Sato's eyes began to turn green and he could no longer control his body. In a matter of seconds, he found himself floating in his consciousness. No way, she took over my body. Sato yelled while floating in an endless dark void, helix. Sato could see everything through his eyes like he watching a really big HD screen of his own life. Sato, who had now been overworked by his skill helix, stood in the middle of his room with his right hand stretched out. Activating the ultimate skill predator. A wild force of dark mist rushed out of his hand, causing a strong breeze to storm into the room. Releasing Grim Reaper from the void, Helix uttered. The Grim Reaper that Sato fought with when he first arrived in the fantasy world gushed right out of the mist and straight to the ground. The Grim Reaper was just hovering above the ground with its head covered by the cloak it wore. Is that the monster I faced back then? What the hell is Helix doing if it attacks now? Activating the use of Evolve on host's properties now evolve. The Grim Reaper gave out a loud shriek as its body began to brighten, it fell to the floor and its body began to change. When the light dimmed down, the Grim Reaper had already evolved into a new form and Sato was shocked by the outcome. It took the form of a naked middle-aged girl with a broken crown at the side of her head. She had long black hair and golden eyes that are hard to ignore. She stood up from the ground with an emotionless face as she stared at Sato. Task completed, transferring consciences back to body, voiced Helix. Sato abruptly found himself maintaining his limbs before a smile hit his lips. I didn't know I'd miss my body so much, Sato hugged himself. Oh right, Rho alpha D alpha N nu E, backquote C, 0 meters. He suddenly remembered something. Helix, did you perhaps? Master, the Grim Reaper uttered. Sato slowly looked at her, head to toe before squeaking like a girl after seeing her naked. His face turned beet red as he covered his face with both his hands. A neat girl. He stammered. The Grim Reaper tilted her head to the side in confusion. She looked down at her body before looking back at Sato with the same confusion. Master, like, the Grim Reaper asked as she pointed at her body. For the love of God, why are you naked? Sato yelled. The door to his room suddenly opened and an elf holding a bowl of water walked in with 2 small kids following behind her. The first thing she saw when she entered was Sato standing in front of a beautiful naked lady. She dropped the bowl of water and ran out of the room screaming, he's awake. The 2 kid elves remained in the room and had their jaws dropped at the sight of the girl. One of them pointed, pretty lady, while the other one fell to the ground from the shock. Author's note. I would really appreciate your comment and support of this novel with your power stones. Your active comments would motivate me to write more chapters.